Yeah. You ready to go? Cool. No problem.
If you can believe it.
What the fuck?
David Lynch turned 76 today, Gavin.
Oh, yeah. It's David Lynch's birthday. The greatest filmmaker of all time. Happy birthday, David Lynch. Absolutely. Good way to start off the show, Zach. Thanks for the reminder. But yeah, welcome to the Vanguard, everyone. We're trying out a bit of a new background today, so let us know if you like it. But we're going to be welcoming to the show once again our special friend, good friend of the show, JB from the Revolutionary Blackout Network. Always super excited to chat with JB, and we got a lot of great topics to go over today. Some juicy debate kind of stuff, some good drama as always, as well as some updates on the ever floundering, presidency and performance of Joe Biden. Jesus Christ, it's getting really, really bad.
Officially 1 year.
Yeah, officially 1 year. Did you see his new quote about how he doesn't believe the polls?
He's senile as shit right now. And if you watch his most recent press conference that he did, he's completely out of his mind. And look, I say this as somebody that I'm a Gen Zer. I don't want to come after somebody for any of their what's the fucking correct nomenclature now, neurodivergencies. But if you're the fucking president, I think basically everything about you should be up for scrutiny. If he was just an average guy, going to the diner with his family on a Thursday morning, getting some toast and eggs, I wouldn't be like, look at that old bastard. He can't even tie his own shoes. But when you're president, and you forget what you're saying every 5 goddamn seconds and you don't know how to cohesively effectively lead. God, it's fucking embarrassing, man. It's way worse than even we thought it was going to be. And we were roasting him for being a senile bastard for fucking years on the show.
Yeah, exactly. And I know people say this all the time, but seriously, go back and watch him debate Paul Ryan in 2012. That shit is crazy. It's actually surprising how good he was, how lucid he was. Obviously, his policies have never been there. But as a politician, he actually was pretty talented, more than I feel like he got credit for back in the day. It's kind of ironic that he eventually won the presidency, once his faculties degraded to this point, and now he's incapable. It's kind of fucked up. But anyway, yeah, go back and rewatch that debate, for example, or anything else, and you'll just be shocked by how much he's changed. It's kind of sad, to be honest, and a reminder of our mortality. But yeah, I did want to shout out the patrons real quick before we get JB in here. Huge shout out to the patron community. The link is in the description. If you guys want to join the patron community, it would be highly appreciated. It really does help the show out and help support the work we create, help us coming at you guys as often as we do. But yeah, if you want to spot on the shout out screen too, that's another one of the benefits we offer. So hit up that link in the description, guys. Patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. We also have our monthly patron exclusive hangout coming soon. That's going to be our first one of those. We're really excited to do that. So yeah, lots of good benefits to check out. Good way to support the show. But yeah, I guess we can get JB in here. What's up, man?
Oh, I think you're muted, man. Oh, here we go. It's coming.
I was trying to be considerate because I didn't want to yell out.
No worries. No worries. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. It's cold as shit in Kansas City. I know you're over there in the balmy paradise of Florida. The
balmy paradise? Oh no.
What temperature is it outside?
Oh, hang on. I think it's in the 70s.
Bro, it's 5 degrees where I am.
It's 78 right now.
Yeah, 70 sounds amazing, bro.
It's almost 80.
I'd cut off my pinky toe to get a crib in Florida right now. Right?
No, no, because you're saying that now, but then once the summertime, summertime should be back by tomorrow, and then we'll have summertime until mid-December. That's basically Florida.
It does get sticky out there.
Look,
that's for sure.
Look, if you want to know what it feels like to be underneath a dragon's balls, come to Florida. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's how hot it is.
Definitely envious of the weather during the winter.
In the taint of the United States. That's how hot it is. Okay?
Yeah, dude.
I mean, I love the yellow atmosphere. It looks so bright and sunny, like Florida.
Thanks, bro. Glad you're enjoying the background. We just decided
Oh,
to change that. It's been this boring black for so long. But we're
by
gonna
the way,
yeah.
happy birthday to Affinny.
Happy birthday to
Today is her
Affinny.
birthday as well. So just want to say happy birthday shout out to Affinny.
Yeah,
Whoop,
born on
whoop.
the same day as David Lynch. What a legend. But
And
yeah,
the inauguration of Joe Biden. Wow.
Yes, that was actually a year ago today, which is very interesting, which we will be talking about on the Revolutionary Blackout Roundtable today. I would like to actually examine the clusterfuck, also known as Joe Biden's administration.
Well, hell yeah, man. Well, we do have a good deal of spicy shit to get your reaction to. This is going to be a reaction-filled fucking day. Gavin, where do you want to get started with?
God, well, that's a good question, Zach. We have a lot to discuss today. I guess before we get started, one thing I wanted to let JB announce is the recent creation of his new channel. Can you want to tell everyone about your new channel, JB, and where they can find that and listen to your solo content?
All right, people, let me let you guys know. I have my own channel now, just to let you guys know. It's called the JB Font channel. You guys can find it on YouTube. I'm also now on Twitch. I just launched that as well. If you guys just search JB Font, just JB Font, JAYBEFAUNT, then you guys can find my channel. I'm a relatively little itty bitty channel, but for right now, I am still growing. I think my latest interview was with Case Study QB, and the week before I was with Franco from Frank Analysis, and yeah, so it's pretty awesome. I'm learning a lot. But it's really cool, and you know, a lot of people really need to know that those of us who have channels like this, we have to realize that we are the type of people that there's a lot of work that gets involved, and so because of that, you know, it's not like we just sit around all day. There's a lot of clipping, there's a lot of editing. You know, we also have to do our streams multiple times a week, things like that. So it is very, very difficult from time to time, especially when it comes to doing things like this as well.
Oh yeah, I totally sympathize with that, man. You know, streaming is one of those things that looks so effortless. You know, you're just sitting there chatting with your homie, laughing at shit, reacting to stuff. Seems easy, and you know, obviously, I'd much rather have this as my job than something else. I'm not trying to say it's that hard, but at the same time, you're absolutely correct that a lot more does go into it than probably meets the eye. There is a lot of behind the scenes graphic design, editing, clipping, social media management, all that kind of stuff that is kind of invisible. People don't really think about, but is definitely a part of the process. So yeah, you know, that's a big deal for you to be starting your own show. Do you have more creative control over that than what you're doing over at the Revolutionary Blackout Network? Like, are you, doing all the work there versus outsourcing that to one of the other comrades over at the Revolutionary Blackout Network?
With Revolutionary Blackout, it's kind of interesting. It's basically not that big of a difference. It's just I'm not sharing that space with anybody. So with Revolutionary Blackout, I am my own producer. I am my own editor. I am my own, host. So each one of us do our own thing totally. And so there's not really much that much of a difference. It's just I don't share my channel space with another person. But at the same time, everything I do on my channel is all on me versus sharing the responsibility among others. You know what I mean? But at the same time, this is also gives me a chance to focus on issues that I would like to, and also I get to veer in different directions other than the politics from time to time that I would like to do. So that's part of why I want to do my own as well. And one of the things that has been impressed upon us at Revolutionary Blackout, as well as many others, is even though we come together as a network, we also need to have our own channels. And that was the part of the original intent of Revolutionary Blackout. I was one of the only people who didn't have my own channel at the time. So I was like, you know what? Let me get mine started up so that I can cast a wider net into this leftist space so that we can put out the ideas of truly telling people that they deserve more than what they've been getting. And so, this is one of the reasons why it's important to have the Vanguards of the world. It's important to have one of the indie news networks and, the Mikasa Sukasas and all these different channels, the reason why is because we don't want to just leave it up to just a couple of people. You want to have such a wide range so that it lets people know, okay, imperialism, that's bad. People deserve housing as a human right. People deserve healthcare as a human right. And we need to, basically hold politicians accountable, even if some of us do not believe as fiercely in electoral politics, we still need to hold our politicians accountable, and people need to hear it straight from us, regular folks, instead of what I like to call the legacy left. So,
yeah. And just to kind of jump in here, JB, I think that's so important, right? Because it's important for everybody to know that, people on the left can have, heterodox viewpoints, right? Where you get a certain kind of cleansed perspective on, the news, what's happening in the world, the mainstream media. Sorry, there's cat fighting behind me that Gavin's going to take care of. So that's why the mauling sounds are coming. But essentially, they're always going to have this bottom line being the corporate dollar, right? That's the line that if you have a show on MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, HBO Max, whatever it is, you're going to have that bottom line be the dollar. Whereas after that, you kind of have some wiggle room to develop your personality, your kind of takes, but you're never allowed to cross the corporate line, right? And new media kind of inverts that, right? We all have our own unique philosophies. We all have our own takes. Some of us are more into mutual aid. Some of us are like, no, I'm gonna fucking beat this electoral game, or I'm more of a commentator. Like, I'll see how it goes from my space and clips or whatever. We all have our kind of roles and where we see ourselves, but our bottom line is the people. Our bottom line is our, socialist values. Our bottom line is making progress and uplifting our communities. And I just think that provides a really necessary counterbalance to the sludge that's constantly shovel fed to the people from, the corporate media. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, 100%. It looks like you're muted again, JB. I don't know if you were trying to say something.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. But yeah, that's one of the things I think that's deeply important. And if you can, then, support independent media. Like, for instance, those of you that are watching, I think it's really important that you guys, share, channels like the Vanguard on your social media. Because the thing is that you could be sharing, 52 weeks out of the year, right? And then that one person clicks on one of the Vanguard's episodes. And then they'll go, wait a minute, this is new. I never heard this before. This is a different perspective. This jives with me. This makes a lot more sense than what I've been hearing. And so then this could be their bridge to the left. Their bridge to feeling that housing is a human right. Their bridge to feeling that actual healthcare is a human right. Their bridge into realizing that, oh no, we should not be bombing, all these different countries and having almost 1,000 different military bases around the world. This is that part of that bridge. And so it's not only just, subscribing to their Patreon, which I encourage you to do, go to their Patreon, but also sharing it on social media, sharing it with family, sharing it with friends, because this is all also about political education so that people realize that they deserve better than what they're getting.
Yeah. And what's fucked up, JB, is that used to happen just naturally with everybody from the algorithm. Yeah. You used to just get suggested random ass fucking wacky political videos, and I would take getting suggested a bunch of like Ben Shapiro or like fucking like what's that fucker's name, Nick Fuentes, or who I'm talking like. I wish that I would at least get suggested those guys' videos. That way I know their guys are getting suggested our videos, right? They're getting the Revolutionary Blackout Network, they're getting Vanguard suggestions, they're getting Bad Face suggestions, but instead they're not. Our circle of fucking people who have clicked on our shit get suggested Vanguard content. People who have clicked on conservative content get suggested conservative content. So it really relies on, our last little bit of human connections over our social media to kind of force people to engage with content that is heterodox to what their, regular media diet is. And this actually segues really well into our first clip that I wanted to play, because I think it provides a great juxtaposition between old media and new media, right? I actually just learned this before we went live, but Megyn Kelly actually kind of has like a DIY thing going on now. Technically her show's on Sirius XM, and I'm sure she's funded to shit by all kinds of corporate dollars, but she's not on a network anymore, which I actually just learned. And then you have her discussing with Briahna Joy Gray, how the coronavirus stimulus situation was handled, the funding of businesses and things like that. I think that where the priorities are with each of these individuals could not be more clear. And I think that it makes a perfect illustration of the change in media that we're discussing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, have you had a chance to see this exchange yet, James, from the recent Megyn Kelly show that Briahna Joy Gray appeared on?
No, you're gonna get my raw reaction right now.
Dope. Well, you're gonna enjoy this one, I think. I was really surprised at how this went. At first, I just thought it would be totally amicable, and for the most part, it was, to be fair. But it did get a little bit intense here, and that's the part that I want to play. They're discussing the government response to COVID, and specifically, things get a little heated when they discuss stimulus checks, the concept of maybe a few more stimulus checks or even repeating stimulus checks is something we've advocated for. So let's take a look here. Again, Briahna Joy Gray from Bad Faith invited on the Megyn Kelly show. Definitely an interesting exchange. Two people that don't have a ton in common politically, obviously. But yeah, without further ado, let's take a look.
I have some skepticism and
here, let me turn this up.
I have some skepticism and concerns about mandates broadly as a general measure. But I also think we wouldn't need as much mandated by the government if we all had a little bit more of a sense of community. That's all I'm saying.
Americans have done so much, Briahna. They've done so much. We're 2 years into it. They have done their part. It's so ungenerous to say something like that. I've interviewed them. They've lost their entire livelihoods. People who have built, chains of restaurants or chains of hair salons, done, gone in the dust. I had a friend who had built a great dance company helping young girls who were trying to turn their lives around. Over, done. You can't dance now. They're not going to let you do that in New York City. You can't be together in that way. Oh, I mean, we could go on, right? About the amount of carnage.
What I would like and what Bernie was advocating for before the race dropped out was the kind of recurring stimulus checks that could help people afloat, that could help people have rental relief so that when they have to close down their buildings for a period of time,
they don't want a government check.
For all of that back rent.
They don't want a government. See, that's where we disagree. That's why I can't. They don't want a government check. They want to build. They want to run and the business that they built.
Megyn, Walmart and Amazon and all of those companies got a check. The American Rescue Plan was the largest single upward transfer of wealth in American history. All the big businesses in America got a bailout for COVID. And it's small business owners like the ones you're describing and your friend whose business was shut down. My mom is a small business owner. I'm a small business owner. We didn't get the PPP funding, right? So there is already socialism for the rich in their country and not for the poor and working class. And that is the issue. The money is already going out the door. It's just not going to you. So I think we share sympathies here. But I think the reality is we have to keep the eye on the ball on who exactly is the enemy and who exactly is causing all of these conflicts of interest between parents and teachers and workers and employees. It's not the small business owner's fault. It's not the employee's fault. It's the people who are not putting together the social programs that could relieve the strain that's coming down on the 99% and instead funneling all of these tax dollars, funneling all of this money to bail out the millionaires and billionaire class. That's always how it's been done in this country. And we have to stop.
I don't know. When it comes to COVID policy, I don't agree with you. I mean, I'll say this. I wish teachers got paid more. I really do. I wish most of our working class got paid more. It's bullshit how hard people have to work for so little returns.
Yeah, and just I wanted to break in here to remind everyone that a couple years ago, Megyn Kelly left NBC after a 3-year contract, pocketing $69 million. So that's at least what her net worth is. How dare you say the American people don't want another check? How dare you say that people don't want or don't need a mere meager $1,000 check? What is that? An infinitesimal fraction of the millions of dollars you made for your worthless fucking contribution to society and to media.
Look, okay, so if I went out the door, my front door right now, and I went up to somebody who's sitting in a Maserati and I handed them $5, would they take it? You're goddamn right they would. They'd be like, oh, what this is for? I'd be like, oh, it's just to have $5. Okay, pocket, boom. People are going to take money, right? It doesn't matter. And the whole thing about people don't want a government check, if it means that your business is going to survive, yes, you do. So the whole notion that, oh, we just want to do for ourselves. It's like, yeah, but the thing is that if you do for yourself, you're going to get sick. You're going to get infected. So therefore, what is the best course of action? For you to close down. So instead, what we're going to do as a government, what they should have done was, okay, you have to pay your rent for that dance studio. Here's your money towards that rent for that dance studio. In fact, we're actually going to cancel that rent. The money that would be going to the banks is canceled. We're going to backstop it at the bank level. So therefore, you won't have to pay rent at all. And then we're also going to take $2,500 tax-free, give it to you, spend it on yourself that you need for your sustenance for the month, and then just stay indoors for a couple months, and then that's what could have happened. But instead, the government shirked their responsibility, and now you have people like Megyn Kelly saying, "Well, we just want to be outside and work our jobs." But the thing is that if you work your jobs, then people are going to get infected. So, what is the next best course of action? The next best course of action will actually be pay people to stay home. But the government didn't even do that. They just told you to stay home, and then you couldn't make anything at all. So therefore, you're suffering. You're either damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. When the government could have actually stepped in and did what it was supposed to do. So the thing is that what Briahna Joy Gray was, and I love Spicy Briahna, because Spicy Briahna is the best Briahna. Because she had to get loud and be like, no. There was socialism. There was socialism for the rich because they actually backstopped. And let's not forget that in March of 2020, what did the government do? They sent $4 trillion to backstop the markets.
$1 trillion a day is a fucking astronomical amount of money.
And furthermore, they were prepared to do it for 30 days. For 30 days. So that would have been $30 trillion that would have been put up just for the stock market. And mind you all that 80% of all stocks are owned by the top 1%. So guess who would have got it? Instead, what they could have did? They could have done that money. They could have actually taken it, given it all to us. They could have given each one of us a $10,000 check. By the way, I did the math. $10,000 each, every single one of us Americans. And then guess what? That money would have trickled up. And then billionaires still would have got their money. But the United States was like, no. What we're going to do is we're going to get it straight to the billionaires. Fuck all you poor people. And so that's exactly what happened. And so with Megyn Kelly saying, I understand her concern, but it is deeply misplaced as far as what should have been done.
Yeah, and it's also
the thing is that she's a millionaire and she's doing all right.
Yeah, and it's also just a downright lie. I want to go ahead and quickly throw, like, she says people don't want checks from the government. That's just a fucking lie. Put up this New York Times piece right here, if we can get it thrown up on the screen real quick. Well, we don't pay for the New York Times because fuck them, but a poll shows that most Americans, including Republicans, support $1,400 stimulus checks, and I used my little cheater thing to look at it. 78%. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's a majority that we don't have for fucking anything in this country besides giving people money, lady. And on top of that, even Donald Trump, when he was running for president, the most conservative conservative Republican Party, he's talking about all the goons and oligarchs that he talks to, the aristocracy. And I remember I used to watch a lot of this dude's stump speeches just because it was, fucking crazy to watch back in 2016. And he would be all like, well, with Social Security, I understand why the rich want it. They paid into it. They want it. They earned it. They want it. They earned it. They earned their Social Security. That's a check that they earned. They earned it. But I also see, what's $1,200? $1,200 is nothing. That's no money for somebody like me. That's no money at all. We're so, but he was still saying like, hey, you paid into Social Security. Even if you have a net worth of $1 billion, the government should still pay you, your Social Security every month. What do you mean nobody wants checks from the government? This entire country is run off of checks from the government. Okay, that's how we fucking do everything. Big oil, yeah, you would run off checks from the government, right? All of that shit. The food industry, run off checks from the government. Waste disposal, run off checks from the government. Everything that this country does that's functional runs off checks from the government. So it's just completely bonkers that you would even try and make this argument. And it just shows exactly what we were just talking about before we played this clip. New media, where are your priorities? Briahna Joy Gray's priorities are with the people, with the working class, with the people who don't have $60 million in assets that they can draw upon, right? With the people who have $400 or less in their bank accounts, right? Because they've already paid their bills for the month and then they're fucked, right? That's where her priorities are. Megyn Kelly is talking about people who have chains of hair salons, people who are running schools of dancers. And it's like, hey, man, pretty sure that person could find a fucking job to feed themselves. What about these people who are homeless, hungry, and sick? You know what I mean? Where are your priorities? Yeah, clearly it's with the other aristocrats.
And yeah, and again, just to marvel at the elitism of her answer there, to say that people don't need any government check, any kind of government assistance during this financial and medical crisis. Meanwhile, she was getting paid $69 million for a 3-year contract at NBC rather, as a host of the Today Show, I believe. She had to be fired from that job because no one was fucking watching her shit. In fact, I was just doing some research. The ratings for Today Show, they went far up after she was fired. So, you know, in any actual meritocracy, she's not getting paid anywhere near that amount of money. She's not getting paid $69 million for 3 years of TV, which is an easy fucking job if you're Megyn Kelly. So again, to then turn around after raking in that kind of unearned money and say, oh, people don't need that. They need to, you know, pull themselves up by the bootstraps and, you know, work the meritocracy. Like, you are proof that there is no real meritocracy. You are proof that the elite class gets paid for their worthless contribution to society while the rest of us starve and get crumbs. Again, this just makes it all the more insulting that she would have this kind of an answer. Seemingly no empathy for the working class, other than at the end saying, well, I do think they should get paid more. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, my problem is that she was spouting that rugged individualism for the poor. And as we all know, individualism, where has it gotten us? Because the thing is that individualism has gotten us nowhere. And I said this on the Progressive Voice a couple nights ago, that the earth runs on collectivism. I mean, you were literally born by means of collectivism. So therefore, individualism in itself is actually unnatural. Because if she talks about nobody wants government checks, the rich do, and they get it. They have their hands out all the time. So why not us? Oh, well, because they don't want us. They don't want to be equal to us. They want to be above us.
And they also don't want poor people to think that the government can just hand out money like it can.
Well, MMT says that it can.
And that's correct. And it also shows that it can by how much money we give to big oil and, you know, all the massive amounts of subsidies that we give to the, you know, military industrial complex, all those kinds of things. We have the money, right? Even if MMT were fake, which it's not, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying in a world where MMT doesn't work out, we still have massive troves of money to give to the poor. On top of that, what we learned from modern monetary theory is that we can actually give to the poor and everybody first. And then if inflation rises, then you can just tax the rich. And then you're like, oh, we can balance it out that way. Okay. And that's an effective economics for a working class, robust middle class country, right? But it's not a good way to organize the economy for an oligarchy where you need the 1% to own 50% of the assets in the nation. But anyway.
Yeah. Did want to shout out the super chat. Thank you, in Tompkin, for the $5. Really appreciate that. I've watched Vanguard since the beginning and love that you push news, even if it counters your politics. Thank you for being a source for news that is unbiased AF. Well, thanks, in Tompkin. We really appreciate those kind words, and we do our best to be unbiased and to give you guys our honest and unfiltered opinions, even if we know it might not be necessarily the most popular of opinions. We always try to be authentic. So really appreciate that you see that and appreciate our show.
Yeah, and even if, you know, look, even if we have our perspective when we make it known, we do try and make sure that we have other people with different perspectives on to try and shake things up a little bit, keep it interesting, keep ourselves on our toes as well. So thanks for that super chat, in Tompkin.
Can I clarify something from MOG? I met the populist voice.
That's what I thought.
Right, the populist voice network, but not progressive voice. No,
like you were chatting with Sahil, really?
Yeah, Yeah, no.
Does that guy even still make videos? I haven't heard of Sahil make any. Anyway, we can move on. But yeah, throwback. Yeah, let's move on to this other clip. Speaking of Briahna Joy Gray, she recently had on Jordan Chariton, who we actually just spoke to on our channel, and they got into a lot of stuff. Obviously, his new reporting on Flint, which you guys should check out the full episode to hear about. But this pretty spicy clip was posted to her her Twitter page. So I thought we could react to this as well. And this is a sentiment which Jordan has expressed on our show too, when he's been on our program, talking about the downfall of TYT. And if you guys remember, I was talking about this yesterday when we were talking to Jordan. I was getting a little bit nostalgic for the good old days back when Jordan Chariton was the, official on the ground reporter for the Young Turks, back when Jimmy Dore still worked at TYT. It was just a much better show back then, before they took all the money, before they kind of changed their message and such. In my opinion, at least, it was actually a show worth watching. I thought it was pretty badass. Obviously we know what happened. Anyway, Jordan has some words here on what went wrong and how they maybe could have fixed or prevented what happened. So we can take a look at a bit of this and react, because I'd love to know your opinion too, JB, on TYT back in the day, if you have any, if you used to watch back then. But let's take a look.
There was a time, again, long before a lot of these feuds, that TYT was that umbrella organization. It was huge. It was sprawling. Everyone was a part of it. And I'm curious, from your perspective, why doesn't it seem to be serving the same purpose that it apparently used to serve?
Yeah. I don't want to go viral, but I'll just be honest. Listen, I appreciate the opportunity that Cenk gave me, but I will say it was kind of always a conflict there, in terms of, you want to call it a network, but you don't really want to elevate anybody but yourself. So, TYT at this point probably could have been $1 billion business if they would have just given Jimmy Dore a daily show, right? Cenk didn't want to do that. Frankly, I had to pull teeth to get my on-the-ground reporting featured on the main show at TYT. I'm not saying this to attack them. It's just, this is what happened. So TYT, there was this idea of making a network, but at the end of the day, if the force behind it, which at the time was Cenk, is basically just wants to hear his own voice and be on camera a lot, you're not going to elevate, because you're not going to create a network, and it's not going to thrive with like only one face. You need to elevate a lot of different faces. The other thing also is, TYT, they were obviously the first originally in the game of this. They didn't have a lot of competition for many years on independent leftist media, but they started with me doing on the ground reporting, which people loved, but then they kind of stopped doing that. So to me, their failure, or Cenk's failure to really.
Also, I just wanted to say, not only did they stop featuring original reporting, they fundraised for months on the premise that they would be then, using that money to hire more on the ground reporters to, have more original reporting, which they could react to on the show. And I have no idea what happened to all that money they fundraised, because needless to say, after Jordan was fired, basically their reporting unit disintegrated. It disappeared. Whatever was left of it was so pathetic and useless that, it barely got any airtime. It was so uninspired. It was so ungroundbreaking in every way. That it really does beg, what the hell happened, not only strategically, but financially. Again, fundraising a lot of money to hire new reporters and to bring in new voices. I remember at one point they were saying like Sean King is now going to be on TYT, and then that never happened, even though they raised a bunch of money supposedly for that too. So
not really sure
that's shady shit going on.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Not getting Sean King on your program is an L, or it might be more of a W than an L. But anyway, yeah, it just the thing that it all comes back to is it just shows that if your personal ethics aren't reflective of your political ethics, it's going to show. Cenk is not he's not a socialist. He's not a progressive guy. He's an egotist. And he has the instincts of a capitalist, right? He wants to be the shark in the tank, and he wants all eyes to be on him, which goes entirely against the grain of a progressive news network, which should be democratically run. It should be democratically allotted. Everybody should have, a specific set amount of airtime for the news that they think is important. And okay, if something breaks, like, of course, like, we can move things around. human beings. But the idea that he just wanted to build a network around his face is so conceited and so antithetical to the progressive movement that it just makes me fucking laugh. But anyway, we can keep watching this.
And also, he's absolutely true that Jimmy Dore was totally sidelined from TYT. He used to be like a mainstay of the panel, and then they basically relegated him to this other show called Aggressive Progressives that no one really watched, to be honest. And he stopped being a part of the main panel, which I used to really enjoy. I thought Cenk and Jimmy had a really good rapport back in the day. They would argue sometimes, they would kind of get in spats, but it was always, had a sense of camaraderie and real friendship behind it, which is just crazy to think about given, where they are now. But anyway, the point is that Jordan is absolutely correct that they sidelined Jimmy because Cenk was afraid that he was, becoming the bigger attraction than he was. He was starting to realize that a lot of people were coming to TYT, not for him anymore, but for Jimmy's opinions and commentary. And at that point, got to sweep him to the side because again, the ego got involved, which is kind of crazy to think about how much they, sacrificed just for the sake of ego. But, it is what it is. Let's take a bit more of this in, though. I did want to play a little bit more.
Really elevate new faces, new voices to really push them so that it wouldn't just be like, Cenk and, a band of other people. It's unfortunate because I think TYT, obviously they kind of shifted a little bit politically too, but
to what do you attribute that? Because I've heard, people make their accusations and I try to stay out of those, so-and-so has bad motives fights. But as someone who used to work there, do you have any thoughts about what caused there to be a political shift?
Yeah, I think that I know a lot of people want to ascribe it to, the $20 million they got, this and that. I think that's the easy storyline. I don't want to say that had nothing to do with it because obviously when you get $20 million from a major Democratic Party donor, that's not going to have zero effect, even if they don't technically have editorial control. I'll give an example here. And I've never said this publicly, so you're getting it.
Scoop.
I was on the ground in 2016 covering Tim Canova's race versus Debbie Wasserman Schultz. At the time, other than Hillary Clinton, Debbie Wasserman Schultz was like the most hated, neoliberal resistance, figure, whatever. So I interviewed Canova, and he gave me like a pretty big scoop. I mean, he basically said, "Yeah, I can't get Bernie Sanders to return my phone calls." Politico picked it up. All like the Washington media picked it up. I believe CNN did too. I called Cenk. I said, hey, we're getting this clip to you. Like, do you want me to come on the show? This and that. Basically told me like, yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to get it on the show. And I said, what do you mean you're not going to get it on the show? Like, why am I even here? Like literally the biggest down ballot race at the time, Tim Canova versus Debbie Wasserman Schultz. He basically just said, I can't get Bernie to return my calls a week before the election. That's like news in any world.
Yeah.
And he kind of gave me this birds and the bees speech. Like, well, there's the progressive. No, he said this. There's the progressive audience and then there's the general audience. So, and the general audience doesn't know who Tim Canova is.
Well, that's your job.
So
that's part of your job as a journalist.
So I said to him, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have the analytics. I'm telling you, your audience is progressive. They don't know who Tim Canova is. Maybe because, well, first of all, they do. But to your general audience, they might not know who he is because you haven't covered it. Right. They do know who Debbie Wasserman Schultz is. That I can tell you. And generally, it's a smart thing if you're investing a lot of money to send a reporter around the country to highlight when they break news.
Yes, you're an asset. Besides which, to your point, the general audience, the politicos and the Hills and the whatnot, were covering it.
Right.
Which demonstrates interest.
So to me, that was the bigger issue rather than the money. There seemed to be a disconnect. And again, I do appreciate the opportunity Cenk and them gave me, but there seemed to be a real disconnect with the grassroots.
I mean, that makes sense to me, actually. Hearing that sounds like it's very plausible. Cenk was going after a bigger slice of the YouTube pie, and he lost the forest from the trees, right? He was saying like, "Oh, I'm going to be the next." I could totally see it, right? He's in the back of his mind. His thoughts are festering. He's got $20 million. He's growing the channel fast, and he's like, "Oh gosh, we can get the MSNBC audience. We're gonna get them. Oh, it's gonna be fucking crazy." And then you just realize you lose what actually made your channel interesting, your program interesting, is that you weren't that. And when you just become that, It's like anything in politics that we cover, right? When Nina Turner tried to be somebody that she wasn't, when she tried to present as more establishment, it backfired. When Bernie tried to be somebody that he wasn't, when he tried to present as more Democratic Party, it backfired. When I'll give you a completely different random example. When Claire McCaskill tries to run as just a Republican, but she's a Democrat, she's gonna fucking lose, like she did to Josh Hawley, one of the most unlikable senators in America, right? People don't want the diet version. They want the authentic thing. And so if you offer people something that it's not, they just feel cheated. It feels sanitized. It feels like, synthetic.
What it is TYT suffered death by individualism. That's part of what it was. The holding back of talent that, number one, could have grew your channel. Number two, could have pushed an audience further left. He didn't want that. He wanted to be the face rather than realizing that other people could be the face and he could be the person behind the scenes that's moving things and furthering the message of progressivism. But instead, he didn't want to do that. So he risked that movement to prop up himself. And unfortunately, that's what we saw with TYT. And the whole deal with saying that we have our progressive audience and general audience, that sounds like I have my private position and I have my public position. And it's like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that you don't feel that this is newsworthy? Even though other bigger outlets than you feel that it's newsworthy. I think that the individualistic route is what tanked them. The means of making unilateral decisions and not doing things in a democratic way or in of the best interest of your audience type of way is what killed them. And now you see them, yeah, they still have around 5 million subs, but what are their lives like? Like their live streams, like look at how many people are actually watching.
Yeah, they get less views per live than like a guy like Vosh, and Vosh has like 350,000 subs, just to compare, somebody right around that ballpark. And I mean, then you compare them to Hassan Piker's views, and they're getting starched by just one big Twitch streamer that actually came from TYT.
To be fair, sometimes depending on the news of the day, they do better than Vosh. I've seen them with like 13,000 viewers live on a couple weeks ago. Yeah, to be fair.
Yeah. But I mean, the guy they fired is doing a lot better than they are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hassan destroys them, which is funny because he's Jink's nephew. Anyway, I did want to add one more thing to the conversation because Jordan just commented on this Twitter post, and just to clarify his position on this matter, someone commented and said, "Dog, I agree with 99% of what you say, but just the one statement, TYT could have done $1 billion business if Jimmy Dore had his own slot alone, makes me literally question you. 99% LMAO. The problem was not Jimmy Dore's lack of airtime." And Jordan follows up and says, "Yeah, I should have specified my comment. I was talking about at the time when Jimmy was still with them. I wouldn't advocate for that today." So again, Jordan is saying that at the time he thinks it would have been an appropriate decision, but not necessarily anymore. And I do think it's undeniable, whether or not you think he's changed for the better or worse, that Jimmy Dore has changed a little bit in his commentary since the days when he was at TYT. And if you doubt me, just go back and watch some of those old videos. You'll know what I'm talking about. Again, regardless of where you fall on his recent commentary, it is true that he has changed a little bit. So I think Jordan is offering an important clarification there that I thought we would add to this, just so his words aren't distorted in any way. But yeah, definitely an interesting video. And this is a point he's made a couple times, but I think it's worth repeating.
Yeah. And the thing I think that is the most important to clarify about, the point that he's making about Jimmy Dore is that the guy is infectious host, right? He's going to get eyeballs on him. And I don't think anybody can argue with that. You know, he's a comedian that brings that kind of showmanship to the table in a way that Cenk just cannot muster, right? Cenk can scream, he can get angry, but that's kind of one note, right? There's not a lot of range to that. It's different to be able to scream and get angry and then also like humiliate the person that you're talking about in a way that's funny as well. And I think that's what a lot of people looked to Jimmy Dore for, and still to this day do, the ability to, just take people down and rip them to shreds live on air for the world to see. Whether or not that lines up with the, outlook of the TYT's audience anymore, I don't think it probably does. But at the time, I think that it did. You're right, Gavin.
Yeah. From what it I've observed is it seems like there is a bit of a gulf between the beliefs of someone like Jimmy Dore and Jordan Sheridan. Jordan Sheridan still believes in the Democratic Party. Jimmy Dore doesn't. And a lot of people with their ire they have also went into the same camp as Jimmy Dore because they've been deeply observant of the Democratic Party. And so people like myself, while I don't really watch Jimmy Dore, I do agree that there's not really much left to, look at the Democratic Party anymore. And so there's a lot of people who share that same angst. And so this is one of the reasons why, on top of a lot of things that you said earlier about Jimmy, that has caused him to have a much wider audience.
Yeah.
And so, and part of me also thinks that TYT has what you call soft support. A lot of people subscribe, but they forgot and they haven't been watching them forever.
Mm-hmm.
So they just forgot to unsubscribe. That's all it is.
Or they just don't use YouTube. Yeah.
They call them the legacy left. It's just that they have that soft support. There's no real stern support there. Yeah. And so because of that, then you have people like TYT that will have some abysmal numbers compared to the amount of subscribers that they have. And, like for instance, Revolutionary Blackout, I mean, we have about 13,000 subs, minuscule compared to TYT. And yet we'll have our streams be, 1,300, so, I mean, yep. Basically 10% of our entire audience. So why is it that TYT will have a stream that they have 5 million subs, but they don't have 500,000 views?
Right. And I think that one thing that is very true also that you said, JB, is about how Jimmy Dore's views on the Democratic Party changed and how that also might have had something to do with him getting pushed out of TYT, because obviously Cenk's whole mission was the Justice Democrats. That was their, modus operandi for a long time and still is, from what I can tell. Jimmy came to realize the true nature of those of that strategy, I think, a lot quicker than some other people like Cenk, and his support of third parties, the Green Party, stuff like that, I think also had probably a lot to do with, their departure, just the different values, different priorities as far as electoralism goes. I definitely don't think they liked him kind of straying from the message as much as he liked to. But like I said, I thought it was a lot more of an interesting show when he was there offering that different perspective, because, we can talk shit on Cenk all day long. We can't deny that he's also a pretty capable showman. He's charismatic. He's able to get loud and angry, and he's entertaining in a sense. And again, I really liked to see Jimmy and Cenk together on the panel back in the day. I thought that was some of the best stuff, because you got to see those competing perspectives kind of argue it out, debate it out, share their differences. And to me, that just made for a much more interesting show than the echo chamber that it has now become. Everyone on the panel agrees with each other. There's very rarely, if ever, a debate or a lively exchange of ideas. It's all just nodding along and again, echo chamber. So it's really to their detriment that this happened. And even if Jimmy did stray ideologically from the TYT message, again, that doesn't mean he has to get sidelined. I think that made the show better, not worse. But thank you, Sean DeStefano, for the $4.99. What type of conservative values do you like? I'm not really sure what you're referring to there. I don't like very many conservative values. Do you know what he's talking about, Zach?
I don't know many things in life in which I am conservative. I'm trying to think of a joke, and none are coming to mind. So I guess I'll just, let me sit on this for 1 second and say that guess the one like conservative-ish. Well, that's it. None of the conservative values that I would like ascribe to do I think are exclusively conservative, right? So if I say something like, "Oh, you know, you should value your family," well, leftists value their families too, right? So I don't even want to fall into any of those traps. And I'll just pass on this one. Thanks for the question, Sean, but you're getting a big fat L from us around the table unless JB has some conservative values he wants to share.
If you want to talk about actual conservative values, because conservative modern day do not have conservative values either. If you want to talk about true conservative values, then you would go back to somebody like Teddy Roosevelt, who actually wanted to conserve the planet by planting trees, national parks, things like that. If you want to talk about that conservative value, then yeah, I'll subscribe to that, because I do think that we need to conserve the planet. Other than that, as far as values of community and family, number one, family can be whatever you make it. That's what I believe in. Community is basically us having a collectivist type of mindset where we depend on one another and we help out each other. That also means financially making sure that everybody is okay as far as our economic situation is concerned. So if you want to go that route, then yeah, but that's not necessarily a conservative value. It's more of a human value. But conservatives don't even obey their own values, because they're the same ones that want smaller government, but yet they want to give billions of dollars to the military, and they're for police actually tamping down on people's First Amendment rights. So even modern day conservatives don't even have conservative values.
Yeah, I think that's right on, man. And also thanks to Lake's Girl for the $5. Really appreciate that. Voted Republican for years, then switched to Dim. Now I sway populist libertarian. I love Jimmy. He brought me into the progressive talk stream. Well, thanks for the comment, and thanks for sharing your experience. Yeah, I think that definitely kind of suits Jimmy, kind of a populist libertarian type of character. I think that's an accurate description, and that's cool to hear that he kind of was able to change your mind on some issues. Obviously, just because I disagree with Jimmy Dore on a couple of issues doesn't mean that he can't be a fantastic spokesperson when he's correct about things. That's undeniable. So thanks a lot for your comment.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that kind of reflects a lot of people's trajectory when they go from being a Republican, then they switch to them. You still kind of hold on to those libertarian values. And, obviously you don't want to have a, MSNBC host lecture you about how like owning a gun is irresponsible. You would probably much rather talk about some working class issues, things that are affecting working people. And yeah, 100%. So I think that's a great transition to make, and appreciate you sharing that with us. Speaking of things to share, we can do this before or after the Marianne Williamson, Andrew Yang clip that we're going to get to, guys. But holy shit, have you seen the video of the cop hanging upside down shitting his pants?
No.
Okay, well, we're going to have to all watch that together.
Yeah, private chat me that so we can pull it up in a second. But I did want to segue into this next topic, because we were just talking a little bit about the Democratic Party, the prospects of reforming it versus third-party approach. Is electoralism even worth it? These are the questions we've been pondering, and it makes for a great segue into a conversation that Marianne Williamson, who's potentially going to run against Joe Biden, seemingly, she recently was on Andrew Yang's show, and they had a bit of a discussion about those exact questions as well. I thought we would play just a couple minutes of this and react accordingly. Definitely an interesting conversation here. So let's take a look as I pull this up. I would really like to hear your opinion, JB, as well, on this potential idea of Marianne Williamson running against Joe Biden, and also what you think of Andrew Yang, because if you're not familiar, Zach and I are not big fans. But yeah, let's take a look.
If you accept this is the set of issues, and then you say option one, run as progressive in the Democratic primary and transform the party.
And don't pretend that the Democratic Party is any different than it is, that you make part of your campaign to point out that the Democratic Party, as Bernie Sanders has been saying, has strayed from its traditional role of true champion of the working people of the United States. If it continues to be this basically corporatist machinery, it will not have a chance to beat Donald Trump.
Have you seen some of the commentary that Bernie should have started a third party? I guess people are suggesting
that's what people are saying. People are saying he shouldn't have stopped. That when they suppressed him both times, he should have said, well, I'm keeping on walking because I'm running for president and I'm not going to be stopped. I'm supported by the American people. This isn't about whether or not the Democratic Party is giving me permission.
I mean, he's not even a Democrat technically.
So why should he be allowed?
There's nothing stopping him from doing it. if you think about people that could have started a successful third party over this recent number of years, Bernie's at the top of the list.
Oh, absolutely. And many people's frustration with him is that he didn't just keep walking. That's not criticism, it's just, as I said, frustration. The question I think people have for you is, number one, whether you'll be able to garner enough money to really make the difference that you'd like to make. Number two, whether or not there will be enough diversity. You know what third parties have done, and that's part of the problem, even calling it a third party. What they've done traditionally is that they've just kind of anointed a candidate. My hope for the Forward Party would be that you'd have a lot of really good people running, including for president. So that, a friend of mine was saying the other day, if the Forward Party gets a lot of really good people from diverse political places running, their debate will be the more interesting one that people will want to watch in 2024. Because if the president runs again, I think if there is even a debate at that point, but the Democratic Party has become so yada, yada, yada. I think of the Republican Party as representing a nosedive for our democracy. And I think of the Democratic Party as representing a managed decline for our democracy. And neither one of them, they represent such a solid status quo. It is not going to interrupt itself. This is going to take an intervention by the American people.
I like the idea of rejuvenation. And I also love the idea of having an independent nomination process for the Forward Party where anyone can participate. And you can imagine that primary being fascinating because
you'll have hundreds of people running, if not more.
Well, there'd be so many people too that would realize that they'd get a fairer shake outside of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. So the Republican Party, just a quick, like a synopsis of how that's going to go down. So you'll have Trump running. He'll be running against generally some second tier types who feel they have no choice but to run against Trump and hope something breaks their way. So it's going to be Mike Pence, maybe Mike Pompeo, Chris Christie,
Nikki Haley.
I think Nikki Haley's already publicly said she doesn't run against Trump. So she's taking herself out if Trump is there. Ron DeSantis has privately said he will not run against Trump if Trump is there. So that's one reason I'm saying that
either one of those could be his VP candidate.
That's part of it. And so they're also on the younger side. They're like, yeah, I'll sit out one cycle and then just come back around. Whereas if they go against Trump, then it could be a career destroyer because a lot of the base of the Republican Party could turn on them in a lasting way. So that's one reason why Trump's opposition will likely be the relatively less strong candidates. The strongest candidate that seems poised to run against him, in my opinion, is Larry Hogan of Maryland, who's termed out.
No, because he would be more the, Youngkin, yeah.
Let's say you were an independent human who wanted to run for president. If you try to insert yourself into the Republican primary, you're not going to get a real shot, given that Trump will be taking up all the oxygen. There'll be some other figures.
So that was an interesting conversation. It goes on for a while. As you see, it's over an hour. So if you guys want to check out the entirety of it, then feel free to. Definitely an interesting discussion. One funny note, Larry Hogan has no fucking chance of beating Donald Trump in a primary. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Hulk Hogan has a better chance.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? What are you talking about, bro? But anyway, what was your thoughts on that, JB? And especially, I want to know your opinion on this prospect of Marianne Williamson challenging Biden. Should she do it as a Democrat? Should she do it as a third party? Is she the right person to do it at all? I'd love to know your take.
I think on a personal note, personality-wise, Marianne Williamson's pretty cool. But politically, for her to run in a Democratic Party, they would pretty much do to her what they did to Bernie. And they wouldn't give two shits about it. But at the same time, I feel like she's right at the precipice of realizing what the hard truth is, but she just doesn't go over that edge, right? And she said that
what hard truth is that, if you don't mind my asking?
Huh?
You said she's right up at coming up to the hard truth. I'm wondering what you mean by that.
Yeah, let me explain. She said that the Republican Party is basically a decline, is a fast decline towards the end of democracy, and the Democratic Party is a managed decline towards the end of democracy. One thing I think that people get wrong is that they actually think that the Democratic Party and Republican Party are two different parties. The funny thing is that I always say this: the Democratic Party actually works for the Republican Party. They're literally fucking up right now so that Republicans can come in. Look at what Joe Biden could have did over the last year. He could have did a lot over the last year just by executive order. He could have said, well, Donald Trump did the same thing. Look, the Republicans are in my way. I got to do what I can for the American people. Instead, he goes, oh, I want to work with Republicans. He watched for 8 years as vice president. Obama tried to do the exact same thing. And what happened? Oh, we're going to make sure Obama is a one-term president. And he watched that. And somehow it doesn't come to his mind. He knows that's what it is. They do. Here's the crazy part. And people need to realize this, that the Democratic Party agrees with the Republican Party 100% of the time. Okay, so you can go towards social issues and be like, well, no, they don't agree with them. Okay, fine. But if you don't agree on economic issues, the social issues is kind of moot. So for Marianne Williamson to say, kind of differentiate the two, it's like, yeah, no. They're all one and the same. And, I am also keenly reminded that Andrew Yang did endorse Joe Biden. He could have endorsed Bernie at the time because Bernie was still in the race, but he chose not to. Why? Because he made a calculated decision. It wasn't a decision of morals, and it wasn't a decision of integrity. It was a calculated decision. And that whole bullshit about, oh, well, who's more electable? The most electable one would be the one that has the best policies, right? So no, instead they wanted to go with Joe Biden, and they figured maybe he'll put me in the administration, so that when I run again, I'll have these credentials. They're trying to be another Hillary Clinton. Try to have all the credentials as you possibly can and then run. No matter how shitty your policies are, no matter how shitty of a person you may be. And the thing is that what has that gotten us? So as far as, her running in a third party, go ahead. But I tell you this, you're going to notice that the Democratic Party will stop you every single step of the way. And people need to realize that the Democratic Party also does voter suppression. They do their voter suppression in a different way, but they still do voter suppression, especially when it comes to their primaries.
Do you remember HR 1 though? That was a piece of legislation that was like the first, it was literally HR 1, and embedded in that was a legislation to make it harder for Green Party to have ballot access.
Any third party. It could be Green Party. It could be Liberation Party. It could be Libertarian Party. It could be any party. The thing is that they do not want third parties. Why? Because it's a big club and they don't want any other parties in it. And people and people are blindsided. Well, if you're for a Democrat, then you got to be for a Republican. What kind of bullshit is that? And it's just like if you offer me the chicken dish or the beef dish, and I'm like, you know what? No, I'm gonna go for the fish. It's like, well, if you go for the fish, you obviously went for the beef. It's like, no, I picked up the fucking chicken dish.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct, dude. I think you're speaking the truth right now, and I 100% agree with your assessment that
fish dish.
The fish dish, yeah. But I 100% agree with your assessment that the Democrats at this point, at least, they're just serving to help the Republicans. Their inaction, their absolute lack of a strategy or any sort of results is 100% empowering the Republicans. Voter registration for the GOP has surged over the last year to an extent we definitely wouldn't have expected just a year ago when Biden actually had fairly high approval ratings. So it's total insanity. And there's one other thing I really wanted to say that I'm forgetting. What were you just talking about? Goddamn, never mind.
We can respond to the super chats and see if you remember.
Yeah, we can respond to these super chats while I try to remember the amazing fucking point that I was about to make. God damn it. Anyway, thank you, Das Bose Fleisch, for the $4.99. Really appreciate that. Das Bose says you can become conservative when struggles are won. Cannabis, for example, if it gets legalized, the task is to conserve its legal status. So yeah, true in the literal sense of the word. That is correct, and thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. We also have one more. M. Smith, in the beginning, no one thought Bernie had a chance either. I'd rather fight a losing battle than go along with the BS. I think that's fair. However, I would like to interject that we could also fight a winning battle, and that's my strategy. So anyway, but yeah, and just to round out the Marianne Williamson thing, look, Marianne Williamson is not my favorite politician in America. You could definitely pull up quotes from her that I would disagree with. But it's kind of like what JB said. You know, if you want to run third party and take on this fucking system and leave a roadmap, like, be my fucking guest. If you can get to 5% under a third party banner that's, you know, not awash with corporate capital, which is another hard line that we all have. But if you can do it with, you know, populist positions and moving the people behind you and get over 5%, then fuck yeah. You know what? If you get close, I might even cut you a check. You know, we disagree. You probably won't win. It's your first outing, but that 5% benchmark is really important for third parties to get to. Green Party hasn't quite done it yet. But, you know, maybe with somebody like Marianne Williamson at the helm, they would have a better chance of that. And even, you know, so, you know, I know she's been a little wishy-washy on her Israel-Palestine positions for my taste. She's made some complicated, comments on a lot of a number of things, you know, and every time I say anything nice about her, the comment section is warm enough to remind me of them. Yeah. But
I mean, even Bernie had some weird takes on Israel-Palestine back in the day. You can find quotes from everyone that are bad. So, you know, I try to look at the better aspects of her, but there is no doubt she's had some cringe statements for sure. I think she's grown, hopefully, but we would have to see what her issues or what her policy ended up being were she to run. But I do remember the thing I wanted to say, which is that not only is the Democratic Party oftentimes less democratic than the GOP when it comes to their primary processes. If you guys remember the super delegates, that was a big thing that helped Hillary beat out Bernie Sanders in 2016. And then even after they got rid of the super delegates in this fake show, you guys will remember come 2020, who remembers that last debate when every single Democratic candidate on the stage, except for Bernie Sanders, said that the person with the most votes should not necessarily win the race. They were fully prepared to take it from Bernie Sanders at the convention, even if he won the popular vote in the primary. So 100% correct. There's no democracy to be found in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I actually have that image right here. It was on the 19th of February, 2020. You get in. I can't share my screen because, or at least maybe there's a way for me to. Let me try. Yeah, let me see here. Because it's just a downloaded image on my computer. You know what I mean? So I don't know if there's a way for me to share it. Let me try it really quickly. Share screen, share. Entire screen. Bam. Perfect. Right here. Should the person with the most votes be the Democratic Party nominee? No, 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 no. Hey, there's your boy. Yes. So what the fuck? This is bullshit.
Anyway, the point is that only Bernie Sanders was the one. He was the only one saying that the winner of the popular vote should take the nomination, which again is absolutely insane for a party that is named after democracy itself. But what were you going to say, JB?
I think people need to realize how deeply totalitarian that was. Like literally every single candidate, including Joe Biden, said that no, the person with the most votes shouldn't win. Dwell on that for a second. The person with the most votes shouldn't win. The guy right now that is running the country said that. Do you really honestly think that the Democratic Party is democratic at all? No, absolutely not. Now, there are some people who think that they can go in and they can change things from the inside. Yeah, sure you do. I mean, if you want to fall flat on your face and continue to keep doing it, the definition of insanity is keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results.
Yeah, just to have a little bit of pushback there, though, you know, there hasn't ever been a successful third party either. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like you could say the definition of insanity is trying to go third party and not getting anywhere either. So I think that there is at least a discussion to still be further fleshed out about that. Because I think you require the media machine that will only be granted to a Democratic Party candidate. I genuinely do. I don't know how you can get around that.
It's not necessarily needed by a media machine because we can get around the media, right? The thing is that the laws that are set in place. I mean, the thing is that the laws that are set in place are set in by the Democratic Party and Republican Party so that third parties cannot move forward at all in any way. And then on top of it, they will try to get their ballot access, but then the Democratic Party and the Republican parties, they'll block it at every single turn.
Well,
but in a more fairer world, will a third party be able to get up? Yes, because guess what? A third party did win. They won the presidency. They were called the Republican Party. And they won it by Abraham Lincoln. So third parties can do it? Yes. But the thing is who's blocking the shit? The Democratic Party's blocking the shit. So guess what? It can happen.
Yes, that is true. But you would also have it's a matter of having the entire media machine. So in theory, I agree with you, right? Like I do not want to work within the Democratic Party, but I also, have this, Gollum voice in the back of my mind saying, how are we going to get around this big media machine that is standing in our way? But I do also desperately want you guys to react to this video of a cop shitting his pants as he hangs upside down.
Just one thing. I just want to add to your point, though, Zach. What are you doing right now? You're going around the media machine. You're literally doing it right now, bro.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying our best to, but
you guys are part of the tool. So, I mean, look, yeah, and I agree to your point about the media machine, but you and Gavin, you guys are literally trying to circumvent that, which is something that you guys need to be applauded for. So I honestly think it's possible. It's just right now it's hard.
Yeah.
But
Well,
as long as you guys keep doing the damn thing, we get there. We might have a lot more gray on our face, but we'll get there.
Sure. I mean, I think there's a couple ways to look at this. I think if you're a big enough name, then you can circumvent the media machine. Like that's why I was really, really hoping that Jesse Ventura would run as a Green Party candidate. It's because I think he has enough name recognition. Enough people know who he is. He was the governor of Minnesota. I think he could have circumvented the media machine. He would have created the spectacle, and the media would have been forced to cover him regardless of his party affiliation. But we have seen undeniably that when they nominate some nobody like Howie Hawkins, that there's not going to be any media attention and there's no getting around that into the story. So I think it kind of depends on the candidate, and that is why I would like to see someone like Marianne Williamson bring some serious clout to a third party like the Green Party, bring some serious name recognition. But then, like Zach said, there also is that other reality, which is the last time a serious lefty political movement was started in this country, it was by Bernie Sanders, and he did that in large part by being able to participate in the Democratic debates, by being covered by the news as a Democratic challenger to Hillary Clinton, not some self-disenfranchising third-party candidate. So it's really a weighing of these kind of issues. Ultimately, what I have come to is that whoever it may be, Marianne Williamson, Jesse Ventura, whatever, they should run as a Democrat in the primary. But if they get fucked, if they get screwed by the Democratic Party, then they redeclare their candidacy as a Green Party candidate or as a lefty third party candidate. So they've soaked up all that media attention. The media had to cover them because they participated in the debates. The media had to cover them because they were running as a Democrat. But then again, in the event that the Democratic Party screws them like they did Bernie, that person can keep running. They can keep the challenge going with an increased name recognition, with an increased amount of awareness as a third party. And then that way they're, a serious contender as well, but they're also potentially going to bring that third party to 5%, which is something that we desperately need to see happen. So in my opinion, that's the best of both worlds. And I wish more people would be on that page because I think it just makes sense. But do you agree with that strategy, James?
I mean, look, throw it against the wall and see if it sticks, right? And that's basically what I say on that part.
Gotcha. Well, there's a couple super chats real quick to react to. Thank you, Matt Ocelot God 81. Jayapal and Pocan should each be primaried by an anti-work candidate running on the 4/20/69 work week. If anyone lives in their district, please do it. And if you guys aren't familiar, the 4/20/69 work week is a 4-hour work week, 20 hours a day, $69 an hour. The perfect platform, honestly, the perfect platform. So couldn't agree with you more, Matt Ocelot. I think that's a great Great idea. In fact, every member of Congress should be primaried by an anti-work candidate running on the 4/20/69 work week. That should be the platform of all lefty candidates, as far as I'm concerned. But
yeah, we'll make shirts and sell them. If anybody launches a good 4/20/69 campaign, we'll donate you the proceeds. But you got to be serious and you got to put in the work. And I want to see you smoking a fat blunt on your campaign ad as well. We can't let the Democrats own that.
Yo, you're going to see me in between Zach and Gavin, my arms around both of each other. We're going to have a shirt that says 4/20/69. We're going to be saying that. We're like, yeah.
Yeah, let's do it, bro. That's an amazing idea. But yeah, thank you to Bookworm Skates as well for $4.99. If you need a legacy of success, then we can only elect city council people like Shama. We have to try to succeed where we've failed in the past. What I do agree with you there, Bookworm, is that, yeah, we should be putting a lot more energy into winning city council races. I think it was Jordan who was on our show that was mentioning, I don't remember who it was, but we were recently talking to a guest that was saying the left needs to have its shit together on a local level a lot more, specifically when it comes to, school board elections.
That was Rami.
Okay, yeah, sorry. The Funky Academic, great interview. Check it out if you haven't already. But yeah, he was mentioning how, the right wing, they're always active in these elections. They're always, not only running school board candidates, but they show up to the school board meetings and make a big stink and, yell and scream and have a tantrum. Where the fuck is the left at these kind of situations? Why aren't we, making the same kind of noise, making our issues known and heard? It is frustrating, and I totally agree, Bookworm. Shama's a blueprint for success, how to be a uncorrupted, actual lefty champion of the people. So couldn't agree more.
Yep, 100%. Love Shama. Nothing but massive respect for her. Unfortunately, we have these fucking terrible ass laws in this country where she can't be president. Otherwise, that would be 100% who Gavin and I were clamoring for. I would clamor also to change those laws because I don't give a fuck where you're born. I think you should be able to run for president if the free people there decide that you should be president. But alas, any comments on Shama, JB?
I love Shama. I mean, I've had her on RBN like last year, and I think she is an amazing person. She's basically an activist that just so happened, to get into office.
Yep, 100%. And yes, to clarify, it's 4 days, 4 hours a day, 20 hours a week, $69 an hour. I don't know if we fucked that up somewhere, but people in the chat are talking about it.
Yeah, 4 days a week, 20 hours a week. 20 hours a week. Did I say 20 hours a day? Yeah. I probably fucked that up. Yeah, obviously it's not 20 hours a day. That would be ridiculous. No, 4 days a week, 20 hours a week, $69 an hour.
4 hours a day, 20 hours a week, $69 an hour. Man, we've been going for a little too long, I guess. But anyway, before we get out of here, I'm going to force you guys to react to this this piece of art. Matt T from our timeline says it belongs in the Louvre. I couldn't agree more. You guys have to look at this masterpiece and behold it. This is how I want every cop in America to spend their day off. He fucking shit himself, guys. Look at that right there. That is a doo-doo stain right in his fucking tidy whities. He was trying to climb the fence. He was trying to climb the fence and he got his fucking pants caught on it, and then he fell and his pants dropped to his ankles and he's just stuck there and he can't get fucking undone.
Oh God. Well, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Interesting video.
I'm not amused. He's simping for the police.
If we actually defunded the police, we can actually reroute some resources to go to him so he can get some more wet wipes. So that he can actually properly know how to wipe his own ass.
Yeah, there's one more thing I want to react to. If you'd have to go, James, that's totally fine. But if you want to stick around, did you happen to see the Dan Crenshaw video that has been making the rounds?
No.
Okay, this is great. He got challenged by I think a 10-year-old girl at a recent town hall he was doing with his constituents back home in Texas. Mm-hmm. And the way he responded to it is fucking insane. The way he got super defensive at this literal 10-year-old girl. And then the crowd reaction is hilarious. But yeah, we got to take a look at this. I thought this was probably one of the funniest videos that I've seen personally in a while. And Dan Crenshaw is, a lot of people call him Dan Crenshaw, which is very fucking accurate. But yeah, let's take a look here. This is absolutely hysterical.
Yeah! Who hasn't heard, Crenshaw said, quote, "The most important thing here is that we have important hero archetypes that we look up to. Jesus is a hero archetype. Superman is a hero archetype. Real characters too. I could name 1,000. Rosa Parks, Ronald Reagan, end quote. I can't wrap my head around this.
Well, I'll help you. Put a period after the word Jesus and don't question my faith.
Wow. You moron.
Whatever.
Yeah, you don't talk to a kid like that. Yeah, boo.
Don't question my faith.
Oh, okay.
You guys can ask questions about all of these things and I will answer them. But don't question my faith.
I can question your faith if this is what you said.
I mean, you can read the quote again. But nowhere in that quote am I saying Jesus is not real. That's a ridiculous statement. Of course he's the Son of God. Of course he's the Son of God, and of course he's real.
You can say two different things. You can say that on a podcast, and you can say this here.
On the podcast, nobody would have understood it that way. I think you're twisting it that way, which is not very Christian.
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon.
It's not. And I'm not going to have my faith questioned. I'm not going to have my faith questioned.
Yeah, so that's his weird defensive response. And just to clarify, she's asking him about a moment on a podcast where he said, like Superman, Jesus is a good hero archetype. Our society needs hero archetypes to look up to. People like Superman, people like Jesus. And then he said, and also real people like Ronald Reagan. So what she's asking him about there is she says, in your podcast clip, it makes it sound like you don't actually believe in Jesus. You put him next to Superman. But you come home to Texas and you want to pretend like you're the #1 most devout Christian of all time. Why are you, speaking differently depending on which audience you're talking to? And he just melts down. Instead of just giving her like a, I misspoke, sorry kind of an answer. He's like, how dare you fucking question my faith, 10-year-old girl? How dare you bring this up? Just the weirdest, most aggressive, unnecessarily defensive response you could imagine from a politician who, again, is talking to a 10-year-old child. Who's, whatever, who cares? Like, just give her some cliche answer and move on. Instead, now the entire internet is making fun of you because you've revealed what a, little feckless piece of shit you are.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking hilarious. But it also is so, and I don't want to offend anybody, right? I'm a really secular guy, but I'm like, did anybody like notice the background, how uncomfortable everybody got? Like, you have this like, Jesus is the Son of God. He is the Godson. And then you have like the random uncomfortable Trumpers that are like, let's go, Brandon, let's go. And you're just like, is this
what does Joe Biden have to do with it?
I know. Drill, baby, drill, man.
Okay. All right. So as someone who is kind of a theist, all right, I'm not an atheist. Look, number one, that little girl was right. Okay. Let's be real. So if you're going to, if she's saying that, she's basically asking for clarification of what you believe. And for you to get your boxer briefs in a twist over her asking that question, you're only defensive because you're guilty of what she's attributing to you, which means, is Dan Crenshaw really a Christian? Why are you getting so defensive, Dan? That's my question. And even then, even if you weren't, is it the worst thing in the world? See, here's the funny thing about this country. You're demonized for not being a Christian, even though, according to the Constitution, you have every right to that. So this is one of the reasons why they demonize people that are Muslim, because they're not Christian. This is why they demonize atheists, because you're not Christian. And the thing is that it's basically a move to a theocracy. And it's like, well, no, we don't live in a theocracy. So therefore, and even, if she was questioning your religion, you could have just said, yeah, I misspoke. I meant to say that this fictional character and this real character have that hero archetype. So yeah,
Yeah, it honestly, his response was kind of crazy because it reminded me a
no
lot
flakery
of
it all.
It reminded me a lot of like being a 7th grader in the locker room, and then just like somebody's like, "Oh, what did you say? Are you gay?" No, I'm not gay, dude. Bro, you're gay. This is so fucking nah. You know, it was one of those like triggered reactions like a little boy would have. And like a slightly grown up version of a tantrum almost to an actual literal child. Like, it's just so crazy. And I don't know, it's 2022. Is that really that offensive of a thing? That it was, if anything, it was more of a gotcha about the guy's like political game plan, right? Like his strategy, not anything about his actual religion. It was like, hey guy, are you a secular dude or are you not? And why do you pretend to be one way when you're in Los Angeles and one way when you're in Texas? Like, that's a fair question. You know, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. We just want a straight answer from you. You're our elected fucking official. You know, that's fair. And instead he snapped at her. And I thought it was just super cringy, as they say.
Yeah, totally. And I wanted to respond to this real quick. Sir Switch was saying, are people not allowed to have a slip of tongue? Of course they are. The problem was how he responded to her when she pointed it out. I think if he had just said, oh, sorry, I misspoke. Of course I think that, you know, Jesus is a real person or whatever the fuck. By the way, I'm also a secular person, and there's absolutely no evidence that Jesus Christ ever existed. So he could have defended that also if he had any balls. But no, he could have just turned around and said, no, I misspoke. I apologize. I see where the misunderstanding came from, et cetera, et cetera. No one would have cared. It wouldn't have gone viral. Everyone would have just moved on. The problem is how defensive and aggressive he got to a literal child, someone that's not even 11 years old, who's just asking you a question, trying to, you know, understand your thinking here. If I were him, I would have been like, hey, it's pretty cool that you showed up to this town hall. For an 11-year-old child to be that politically involved, that's pretty cool. Of course I'll answer your question, you know, regardless of the text of the question. If I was a politician being challenged by a constituent, regardless of their age, but especially if they were that young, that's something to be impressed by, not to mock and to, you know, get all aggressive and weird about. So anyway, bizarre response.
Yeah. On a comedic note, when Zach said, you know, that somebody accusing somebody of being gay in the locker room, I've been like, hell yeah. And guess what? Your daddy was screaming my name last night, and I would have been like that. By the way, everybody, I actually am gay, so don't come for me in the comments. But yeah, I would have said something like that. I'd be like, yeah, and your daddy was screaming my name, and they would be like, ooh, and guess what? I would have won because I'm confident in who I am, and I have no need to become defensive. So what? Who cares?
100%.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, Crenshaw needs, you know, a little bit of the Crenshaw. You know what I'm saying? Because he is a little too wound up tight.
Would do benefits to the entire Republican Party and the Democratic Party as well, to be honest. But did want to answer the super chat really quickly. Jonathan Boyle, nothing ever pushed me further left than the experience of having raised part of the theocratic right. And as somebody who was raised adjacent to the theocratic right, it rubbed off on me and I became a leftist too. Neither of my parents are super religious, but they all, you know, my mom works for like a right-wing senator. My dad's, you know, Republican guy. Their views didn't necessarily rub off on me, but the experience of living in a really, you know, theological and, you know, kind of conservative area definitely did, you know, lead me to my leftist.
Oh yeah, 100% same. My parents also are not like right-wing evangelicals or anything, but Zach and I both grew up surrounded by right-wing evangelicals. It absolutely affected both of our political evolution, I think. I mean, I don't know about you, Zach, but I had teachers that were talking about religion in the classroom all the time, saying that carbon dating wasn't real because it disproved biblical notions, saying that gay marriage was a sin, just outwardly in the open. I had a teacher that said Islam was a illegitimate faith and an attack on God in the classroom to students, one of which may have been Muslim. So, you know, this was the kind of shit that we were saturated by, just marinating in this culture. And yeah, it totally informed my politics.
Yeah, I had a science teacher tell me that the earth was not actually fucking as old as it was. And she was like, we're going to skip over that part. And she also skipped over a book about evolution because that's all junk. And like they would say shit like that all the time. And, you know, naturally, as somebody with my disposition, I just became the I'm an atheist, fight me kid, you know, like, you know, getting triggered every day in the 7th grade. But You know, it yeah.
And obviously all that's not to talk shit on religious people. Like you said, JB, you're a religious guy. There's obviously nothing wrong with that. We're not trying to, you know, roast the religious community at all. I know obviously those people that we were just describing are not representative of a real sort of Christianity.
I get you. And just to let everybody know, I actually preached door to door for 20 years.
No shit, man.
So,
well, like I said, there's two sides to the Christianity coin. You got your Chris Hedges, Cornel West, you know, kind of Christianity, which you know, obviously completely different than the hateful, gay hating, fucking racist, you know, Christianity that we were introduced to in our youth in Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have people who follow Christianity to the letter, and then you have the other people, and the other people are pretty much the ones who you guys were referring to. And even still, like a lot of us, you know, and I'm not religious, I'm spiritual, but not religious, you know, because, you know, when you think about, you know, about the entire world as a whole, like, for instance, I was never taught that the whole world was created in 7 days. That's bullshit. Because even in the book of Genesis, it doesn't call it a 24-hour day. But the thing is that, you know, you got all these people who've been lied to, who sip some of the Kool-Aid, and they automatically think whatever motherfucker tells them. And guess what? It's like, no. The earth was made over billions of years, and a day was declared by what God said was a day. It wasn't over a 24-hour period. So if you have complete darkness, then how do you know if it's a day or not? Well, he pronounced it. So the thing is that they just don't get it. And the thing is that one of the hallmarks of supposed Christianity is being loving towards people, no matter who they are. And I mean, look, I'll be real with you. Jesus would be chilling out with us, not with them.
True that, bro. True that. And you're absolutely right too about the 7 days thing. As if, you know, in a world where all of the stuff in Genesis actually took place, as if God would be looking at his fucking, you know, clock on, or his watch on his wrist, you know, abiding by the same time that we humans do. Like, what the fuck kind of bullshit?
He's beyond time, but yeah, he does it in 7 days.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
Which one is it?
Yeah. And also we can talk about how many times the Bible has been retranslated from one language to another. So much of the original text has been, you know,
There are versions in their translation. King James Version is a version. It's not a translation. You got to get that right.
Yeah, there's a lot of different versions, and unless you're out here reading the original Hebrew text or whatever, then I don't know exactly. But we do have another super chat. Thank you, Katrina, very much for the $5. Dance studios are run by average women and provide community for young families. Stop dismissing their importance. FYI, the USSR really valued the arts. I don't think we were disvaluing the arts of dance at all. That's not what we were saying about Megyn Kelly's anecdote. I think all we meant by that was that if you have the means to run a dance company, you probably don't necessarily need a $1,000 check anyway. It's people that are slightly lower on the economic totem pole that would benefit from that. But obviously there's huge value to the arts and to dance. I have nothing wrong with that. That's not what we were saying at all.
Yeah. And also, you also have to understand, like, our politics would have given that woman small business, if it was a small business, you know, PPP loans. It would have given her access to federal funding. That's what Briahna was trying to articulate in that. What we were roasting was the fact that immediately in a pandemic where there's massive numbers of housing insecure people or straight up unhoused people and uninsured individuals and all this people without food going on, and you're like, no, people don't need money. My friend with a chain of hair salons on Manhattan Island, New York City, they got fucked by all this. And so fuck all of the poor people. Like, that was definitely the energy she was bringing. So we're not demeaning dance studios. If you want to open up a community dance studio, that's like one of the best things you could probably do for your community, of course. But if you're going to charge $5,000 for your fucking training in Manhattan Island and keep a super bougie dance studio open, because, hey, I don't know if you guys have ever looked into dancing in New York City. It's like one of the most expensive things you could do. Might as well join a polo team where you have to tend your own horse and fucking, okay, in the country. Like, that's like the equivalent. Dancing is an aristocrat thing unless you're a poor person that gets a scholarship, right? It typically in a place like New York City, right? So I'm sorry, I'm not shedding any tears for that woman. She's probably not going to lose her apartment. She didn't say my unhoused or my housing unstable friend lost her entire fucking shit, and now she's living with me and all this. In that case, I would have been a little more open to it. This is a person that's living a cushy lifestyle that, okay, yeah, it sucks your business went under. So did almost every restaurant in America, thanks to the bungling of the government, that you're not even willing to call out on your show. So that's my response.
Yeah.
The thing is that the arts are deeply important, and unfortunately, because of capitalism and the reign of capitalism, it has actually been decimated in this country, and it's been only produced so far as the profit that you can make off of it instead of the actual joy of dancing. So, as far as her friend, the critique wasn't actually for the arts. The critique was actually towards her friend who probably is of good means, that it can probably survive. And if she's not, then I feel bad for her. And that person should also have gotten a regular check and also the cancellation of her rent for her studio, as well as her home or her mortgage.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Of course, if this person is a working class person and if they are doing a community studio, then I also think that subsidies should be given to her just so that she can keep it open, so that it can also do for more kids and people in general, so that they're able to get involved into the dance and the arts as well. Because guess what? I love choreography. I can't dance for shit, but I love choreography and I think it's amazing. So I also support it.
Amen. Well, we do have one more super chat to address. Thank you so much for the $10, John. Really appreciate that. Here's a hot take. Ron DeSantis will be the Jeb Bush of 2024. By the way, I like how the super chat thing is like the same color as our background. But anyway, like Jeb Bush, he was governor of Florida and was the favorite in the GOP primary and collapsed. Same will probably happen to DeSantis. That is an interesting take, John. I have to agree and disagree. I do think that were Ron DeSantis to run in a Republican primary, a lot of his kind of cult-like support would eventually collapse, just because I don't think he's as talented of a politician as someone like Donald Trump was in 2016. I would actually liken him more to like a Ted Cruz, because Ted Cruz did have some real support from the Republican base, unlike Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush was totally propped up by the establishment, by the media. No actual Republican voters ever really liked Jeb Bush for any reason other than name recognition. His polling immediately collapsed, whereas Ron DeSantis actually admittedly does have some serious support from the base. There are people that really genuinely fuck with him, and the way he's run Florida, especially his COVID policies and the fact that he's kind of become an icon of the anti-lockdown sentiment. So, I think he does have some more genuine support than someone like Jeb Bush. But again, I would liken him more to Ted Cruz. Like he would do some damage if he runs, but he's not ultimately going to win.
Yeah, I think that, if he does decide to run, he would, and Trump is in the race, then he'll lose to Trump. But I think he has a way better chance of winning if Trump's not in the race. Whereas I never thought that Jeb Bush had any chance of winning at all. Ted Cruz also would have stood a way better chance of becoming the nominee in 2016 had Trump never entered the race as well.
He would have become the nominee. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, we have been going live for a really long time. JB, do you have anything to say, to plug, promote before we get the fuck out of here?
Oh, just one side note to that super chat. Ron DeSantis is the governor of my state. Ron DeSantis, I think, is more dangerous than Jeb Bush, but I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, I totally agree with that too.
Yeah, he's dangerous. But as far as my show, we'll be live on the Revolutionary Blackout Network tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our roundtable. I'm also on RBN on Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then I'm on my channel, the JB Font channel, on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Gosh, I'm getting my times messed up. I really said I need a drink. But anyways, so yeah, that's what I have. And as far as next week, I'm not sure the guest that I have next week, but actually this Saturday I'm having Kit Cabello from Heartlands Media on. We're gonna be talking, so that should be fun.
Dope, dude. Well, everyone, make sure to go sub to your channel, to James's channel, and we're looking forward to coming on ourselves at some point in the future. I know we've talked about getting something like that set up, so yeah, we'll definitely be talking again soon, man. And thank you so much for your time today. Yeah, we're almost at an hour 40, which is longer than we normally go. So really appreciate the time, JB. Really enjoyed our conversation. Can't wait to talk again.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, peace out, man. Take care.
Great chat with JB. As always, really, really enjoy his perspective and commentary. Always look forward to having him on. We need to have him on more often, honestly. But yeah, before we get out of here, guys, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. But yeah, before we head out, did want to shout out our patron community. As always, we do like to shout out our patrons at the beginning and end of every live stream. So just a huge shout out to everyone supporting the show. If you want to join our patron community and earn yourself a spot on the live stream shout out board, then you can hit up the link in the description. That's patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. Again, it's in the description of this stream right now. So hit that up and you can find out about the other benefits that we also offer our patrons in addition to a spot on the shout out screen. But yeah, really big, huge shout out to everyone supporting the show. It does make what we do possible, as we always say. That is very, very true. We wouldn't be able to do this without you guys. So serious thank you. It really does mean a lot. It means the world to us that you support the show. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in today. Like I said, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. But yeah, we'll see you guys later.
Yeah, and also just to answer a question that I saw in the chat really quickly. Somebody wanted to know if I thought Francis Ngannou was going to be able to beat Cyril Gane this weekend. And I'm actually in for the upset. I'm in for the fucking special, man. I think Cyril Gane's going to dethrone Francis Ngannou. He's already lost a few times, but he's always been considered one of the scariest motherfuckers in MMA. And I think Cyril Gane has a ground game that Francis Ngannou's not going to be able to grapple with. And I think he's going to get worn out. I think he's going to go down late in the fight. But we'll see. Francis Ngannou just stands just as much of a chance as knocking this motherfucker out like 30 seconds in. I've seen him do it so many times that it would be remiss to not say that it's possible.
Hell yeah, bro. Well, yeah, we'll see everyone later. Everyone have a great rest of your Thursday, and peace out.